Hello everyone, welcome to today's session, and this is a sequence of previous videos about creating a service group, service operations, services and service operations. Service operations were basically methods and services were classes written in X++ in D365, and basically what custom services do, they basically allow you to change anything within D365, or if you want to return something from D365. So basically custom services are written for that purpose, to perform certain operations or return something from D365. So based upon certain logic, definitely, which is implemented. So when you deploy a service, it is deployed on two endpoints, SOAP, which we have covered in earlier example, and the endpoint for SOAP is as shown on the screen. You can see by the instance URI and then /SOAP /services and then the name of services, and then by clicking this URI, you will find the XML-like and format of the document, which is a SOAP based document, which will give you all the details about this. So the second endpoint on which a service is deployed is JSON based, which is JavaScript object notation, which is a compact and lightweight document or way of communication between client and server, or you can say interact a client with an API like services in D365. So here you can see, for example, if the URI for the instance /API /services will enlist you all the services within D365. So you can see here all the services which are exposed will be enlisted. There are out-of-the-box services available, and the one which we have created in our previous video, you can see here pkr_resort services is available. So by only putting here /API /services will enlist all the services, and once you put a specific service group, so it will give you the services which are deployed on that service group or combined in that service group. So that that will be available here. Only one service, resort services, is available, and then once you slash with the resort services, so it will provide you a list of operations which are available, which were basically class methods which we have developed in previous examples. So this will list in this format, and this is just like an XML or JSON notation. Okay, and in the last you can just put an operation, service group, service name, and then the operation name, and it will give you in this format the parameters which are accepted, and there are no parameters here, and the return type, which is contract. PKR resort table contract will be returned here. And similarly, if we see another operation which was change resort group, so it also accept one parameter of a contract type class, and type of class is this one, which we have implemented, PKR resort group change contract, and it will return a message contract whether it is a successful or a fail operation. So in this way you can access a JSON API through URI, whether it is available or all by using all services URI, and once it is available, then you can access it. And it is important before we can implement the example, because here what we need to do is we need to write the contract and client classes for ourselves. For JSON. Previously in SOAP it was written by Visual Studio, and also we need to use Nugget package basically to support us in serialization or deserialization of C# of JSON, C# classes to JSON basically. And deserialization is definitely when you serialize, means when you send a packet to the server, and deserialize is when you receive a packet on the server side and deserialize it. So now we will just start with our video or with our training here. So we can just install our Nugget package first. We will go to the tools menu, go to Nugget package manager, and go to the package manager console. In order to issue the commands here, you will be given a prompt for package manager console, and here we can just type in install package Newton SOAP JSON, and just hold on until it retrieves the package and install it. So now you can see that the package is installed. Previously there was some error due to the internet connection, but afterwards I issued again the command on stable internet, and it has basically gathered the dependency information and installed the package by adding it, and lastly it showed successfully installed the package. So this way we have completed this prerequisite, and now what we need to do is we need to create a JSON based supporting class, and for that we need to navigate to our Visual Studio, the console application project here, which was PKR Resort Service Test, and here we just need to write one class. Just add a new item of type class, which we can select from here, and give it a reasonable sensible name. It can be a PKR _ resort, and we can give it like JSON util. This will be a utility class, just like we have written in case of SOAP util. So once we are inside the workspace, then we need to just change our using statements, and we just don't need this collection generic, just remove it, and we need a link one, and also add a few more here. Also we don't need the threading task or text. Just remove it and start using system.service model. Okay, the other one will be system.service model.channels. Okay, so namespace will be the same one, and our class will hold a access modifier of public. So I have completed the class here, and basically it declares a public constant kind of a string or auth header with the literal of authorization, and there are two methods which I have implemented here. Both are of public static type. Public is an access modifier, meaning that from an external class also you can access the method, and static means there is no need of instantiation of the class in order to call the method. And the return type here is string, and it is accepting two parameters, service path and the other one D365 URI. And what it does basically, the D365 URI or instance URI basically is trimmed and with a slash, // and then API and the service, the literals are added here as in the form of I have just shown you here, /API/service, and then there is a service group and then service and the methods or operations. So here also the service path is embedded here. So this is for forming a proper URI, and the other one will return the address basically in the properly written proper format, and that will accept a URI and it will return an endpoint address. So that is the purpose of the class so far. And now what we need to do, also we need to write a client class, JSON client class. So we'll add another class here. Just give it a name, pkr resort JSON client. Okay, so now that in the declaration or the statements we need to change a bit here. What we need to do, remove the last 3 lines and using Newtonsoft, which we have downloaded the Nugget package, and here we'll use the JSON package and use system net package using system input output IO package, and so now what we need to do is also we need to change our namespaces. So in previous one also we need to change our namespaces, because some classes will have the same name, like in our previous namespace which we have used in SOAP util. So it is better to change our namespaces here. So what we can we just need to give it a logical name, resort service test, and dot JSON. Just save it, and also here dot JSON. Okay, so now what we can do, we need to remove the default class here. Okay, so once there is a blank line, and we need to just we need to write a class for the service group JSON basically, which just let me show you once more. So this was the service group JSON, and we need to write a class for this one. So I will start with writing public class service groups. Okay, and within this square brackets JSON property, and we need to write it service groups. Okay, and in the next line public list, it will give you the list of service groups. It will return service group names, getter setter for this. So these are this will be the property used here. Okay, and another class, public class service group JSON property name need to be returned public string service group name. Also this will be a getter setter. So JSON property decoration, basically it correlates with the method within the JSON property. So we can repeat the pattern for the level of services and operation level as well, not only till service group. So I will just complete it. So we have completed our patterns here, and you can see there is a class for service group, and then there is a specific service for the specific service group, and the previous one will give you a list of all service group, but here the specific service group, and then there is a class of services, and there is a JSON property of services, which is basically mapped to the method here, getter and setter. And then there is a specific, for the specific service, there need to be a class, and JSON property maps to the method here. And the return type will be the string here. And then there is a class for operations, and operations will also return the list of various operations within a service. And then there is a class for a specific operation. So that's it. And now what we need to do is we need to write basically a client for accessing the service, and we need to deserialize the data in our new classes. So for that we need to write in the same resort JSON client CS C# file. We need to write a public class here. Okay, and the name will be client. Just start by declaring the string variable. Okay, for the URI, and then authenticate PKR resort authenticate. So PKR resort authenticate will be our class name here. Just do some indentation and authentication variable. Okay, once then we need to write a method for public client string D365 OURI resort authenticate, which will be reused from our previous example. Okay, and here, so this is a constructor because we are using here the same name as our class name, D365 object URI, and the parameter passed will be assigned here, and authentication header need to be also assigned here. Whatever the parameter was, we need to assign it to our variable here inside the client. So here there is a problem, inconsistent accessibility, and it is saying that PKR resort authenticate class is less accessible than method. So basically we need to just go to this class which we have written before, and you can see there is no public access modifier, and we will just input the public access modifier. And then here you can also see there is the similar problem for our authenticate contract. Here also we need to explicitly define a public class in order to fix the problem. And now the problem is fixed here as well. Just save it. You can see here there is no more any error. So public classes are those classes which are accessible from another class, that is not inherited from a parent of the same class. Otherwise we need to use the protected access modifier. So now what we need to do is to write supporting methods, basically, or helper methods, and those will be responsible, one for creating a request for the supplied address. The other one will get the response and read the response from the request, basically to a string. So we'll just start with our implementation of the method here, and the private access modifier need to be written. Okay, and create request string web request. Okay, and declare this variable of a web request, and next we just need to, basically on the same line, we can assign a value to it. So that will be HTTP web request, cast it to be web request dot create, and the supplied address is underscore address parameter. Okay, so the value will be assigned here, and the method which is used here will be post method. And then web request content length, which need to be 0 here, and then web request headers dot set JSON util, our resort JSON util class, and authentication header. The other one will be auth bearer key, which is once authenticated is returned, and here we will return a web request after populating the web request. This will be used for the creating a request for a supplied address. So this method is responsible for that, and the other one which will read the response once it is received in JSON. So read JSON response HTTP web request underscore request string JSON string. This is a string variable which will need to return at the bottom, but before this we need to put some logic here, and by limiting the scope here, HTTP web response will be received and here we'll underscore request get response will be received, and then within this we need to also use the using statement and stream web response and then get response stream reader new stream reader in order to read the stream received. Okay, now JSON string variable need to be assigned a value from reader instance, and we will use read to end here method, which will return us the JSON string. So basically we have declared a JSON string variable, and we are then getting a response from the web request here, and the variable web response is then used here to get the response stream. And when a stream is received, then we need to just get a reader from that stream by initializing the instance using the parameter of a stream. And once the reader is returned, then we need to read the stream till the end, and this will return us a JSON string. So then this JSON string will be returned at the end. So then we'll need to write few methods in order to read the metadata, that is for service groups, services, and operations. And we will just start writing the methods for reading the metadata. To start with, public service groups, get service groups, and this is the same which we have just shown you in the initial in the beginning of this video, that through browser how we can get the list of service groups. So here you can see list of services, and this is a specific service group, and for the same we are now writing the methods in order to get the same from our programming or in the program. So I will just complete it. So here we have completed our methods basically, which are responsible. For example, this one, get services groups, will retrieve the list of service groups, and in this the serialization and deserialization is also used from the JSON namespace or JSON library. And basically serialization means to encode a string into a JSON based format, and deserialization is quite opposite. So so that means to reverse of that, that is string to JSON is serialization, and JSON to string is a deserialization. So here we will return here the service groups. Basically here it is the util class which we have written, which will receive the get service URI. Service group address will be returned here, which we have used in our util class, if you can see here. So get service URI will return us the service group path, and once it is written, then we will create a web request, and we will trim at the end, we will remove this slash sign, and the method will be get in order to read the service groups, and then JSON response is received in this string, and then the string need to be deserialized in order to get the service groups. So, and then there are methods to receive the list of services as well, and here also the JSON string is received in the same method, and the JSON string is then deserialized into the list of services, and then services are returned. And then there is a method to get the get operation by passing it a service group and the resort service string, and once it is passed there, we will again create a web request and receive a web request in the format of JSON string, and JSON string is then deserialized into the various operations. In this way, we have completed our list of completed our methods in order to read the various services, service group and their operations. So next what we need to do is we will basically make a call to get the resort list. So we will be then reusing our resort table contract type in this one, and which we have written in previous video. So we will write a method for that, the public access modifier, and then the reference connected services which are shown in our project with the name of PKR resort service test and dot, and then we will use the contract resort table contract basically. Okay, and with square brackets, and we'll write method like get resorts, then the parameters need to be written here. Parameter need to be a service group string, then a string for a service name, and a string for an operation. We'll just enclose here with the brackets. We'll just complete this method. So now the get resource method has been completed, and it is also using our connected services which we have already connected here in a console application. And the resort table contract will be return type of get resort method, and there will be 3 parameters here. Of all of them are of a string type, service group, service and operation. So then there is a service path which will be basically trimmed for each of the service group. Slash will be trimmed and will again be embedded, because in some cases it might be without slash and some cases will be slash. So we need to trim in any case and then make sure that a slash is there in a URI. And then same is a service and then operation, as we have seen here in example of browser. In the browser you can see here the service group, then service, and then the operation name or method name. So same way we need to basically form this service path. And here you can see get service URI basically is accepting service path which we have already written, get service URI in our JSON util class here. So this one is the class, and service path and D365 URI we have embedded here, and along with the total URI and then slash API and services, like here in up till this we have made here. And then the service path is what we are composing here, and passing it through this method get service URI. It will give you service group address, and then service group address is passed to the web request to create the request, and then JSON response is received, and that is in JSON string, and that is deserialized into a normal list of resorts. So JSON string is passed here, and that is deserialized, and this is assigned to the resort, basically resort table contract type, and it is returned here. Now this get resource will be used in our program which we have used in also previous video. Basically, in order to test it, we will keep this everything same. Only if you go at the bottom, you can see only this code is now commented. That was for the SOAP based SOAP based operation, which we have done in the last video, where we have updated a resolved group. So from this statement, resolved update, resolved group update, and new construction of the instance, I have till the read line statement, I have commented the code, and instead at that so I have wrote this new code for JSON based. I will just comment it. Purpose. Okay, so from here, authentication instance, which we have wrote already a class, we have instantiated, and then authentication contact is header is passed here, and if the authentication header is received, then we will just instantiate the client instance, and then get service group is returned to the service group, and then for each loop is used here to iterate each of the service group and then each of the service here by passing the service group name. So it will return us the services whatever are available, and the get services we have just written here in our you can see here get services. Here we have our service group, so it will return us services, and similar for get operation. So we have utilized these methods in the resolved JSON client we have wrote. So here by passing service group we have returned the services, and for each of the services it will iterate and return us the name of that service on each of separate line, and then the operations will be returned. And for operation we need to pass a service group as well as the specific service. So that method get operation, as you can see here, it is receiving a service group and a resolved service. So basically then it will get a JSON based response and deserialize into an separate operations, and operations are then returned. So this will iterate for each of the operation available within this service. So there are two operations basically, get resolved and update resolved group. So here what we have done is a contact, a resolved variable is basically populated here by passing a service group and then service name and then the operation. So it will give you a get results, and results will be here. The list of results will be returned by this operation. So then we'll iterate each of the result list which is written from the result table, and then there will be a pause here. So we will just test this program now. Meanwhile, if I can show you by going to the resort management module, how many resorts are available, so that it is easy for us to correlate. You can see here there are 4 resorts with the number 1, 2, 3 and 98. So these are available. So now in the command shell is given on running the program or starting a program in Visual Studio. I will pass the credentials so that our main method, program should work here. And you can see it is the same like in our previous example, but here you can see now the output is very straightforward, that all the service groups are out of the box service groups as well as our own service group is returned, and here you can see our own service group, and this output is similar to what we have shown you in initial, if I can again, yeah, this one. So all the services which are available here, So these are basically service groups available, and you can see the same output there and what we have seen in our browser. So this is the same output. After this output, we can go to at the bottom. Okay, so from here, resort services. So what is this? This is the output of our code. If I can show you here. So we have passed the resort group, and we have told it to return us the services available within this resort group. So this is the output from that line. Only one service is available within that resort group because we have only listed one service. And then there is the next code here, get operations, which will return us the operation available within that service group and service. So there are two operations, get resort and update resort group. So you can see here get resort and update or change resort group. So these operations are returned, and then lastly we have asked it to return us all the resorts available. So for that we have used this operation get resort, and it will return us all the resorts available. And we have seen there are 4 resorts, 1, 2, 3 and 98, which I have shown you also in our module. So there are 4 resorts available. In this way, we have basically used a JSON based approach, which is a JavaScript object notation, in order to communicate with our D365 API based interface using JSON. And we have utilized our services which we have created already, and there were 2 service operations, and we have demonstrated already how to create a service group or service, and the classes related with those services, and the operations are just like methods in a specific service. And we have covered also how to use a SOAP based communication or JSON based. So in order to interact with D365, and in this only we have used an external application which was a console based application to interact with D365. And next what we will do, we will consume an external API within D365 instead of using an external application like in this one to consume D365 services using SOAP or JSON. We will do it in a reverse way. So if you have any comments or anything, just let me know. Thank you very much. I will conclude this video at this point.